Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers video, this one for patch 11.8 onward, and while you might think the last few have brought about a new meta, they did not. Chemtank has been nerfed, Udyr and Hecarim were nerfed, but nothing seems to be able to stop them. However, we do have a drastic shift with the buff of some alternative junglers such as Diana, Morgana, as well as other buffs to things like Sunfire recently, Lee Sin in this most recent patch. So not to overhype it too much, but we do have a decent shakeup in the jungle tier lists. And as always, if you do enjoy, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. I have fancy infographics of this on my Patreon along with coaching sessions. Don't forget to head to the gameplay channel for in-depth breakdowns on all these champions. And now without hesitation, let's begin. Okay, so with the S tier, we're beginning with Hecarim. I didn't mean to oversell that there were changes. There were changes, there are changes, but not to this guy. I don't know why a champion like Graves and Hecarim get to live for so long atop the hierarchy, and then they just don't get beaten down. Graves was obviously dealt with eventually, but it took almost a whole season. Hecarim's been strong for even longer than that, and they keep gingerly touching him. And usually we love these little changes, you know, small buffs, small nerfs, especially when things are in flux. However, this guy's just been dominating. Can we please just gut him a little bit and then figure out what to do later? Because I'd like to not have to permaban it, and I'm pretty sure none of us want to see this champion anywhere near MSI. Tanky, damage, speed, CC, rotations, new particle effects. He has everything you want. You either first pick it or you ban it. End of story. Also, phase rush. I think we need to do something about it. Now, next up here, you're gonna have a pick that's performing extremely well. And, you know, if you look at High Elo Korea, really popular still along with the Nidalee and so on, just isn't as effective in other regions. However, even if Shaco and others might have better win rates, slightly better pick rates, she is still the queen of the jungle. End of story. The difference is she is beatable. When you face an Elise, you don't feel like, I lose. You think, you know what, she's a strong jungler, however, I can beat it, I know what she wants to accomplish in the game, I can play around it. It's pretty easy to know what you're getting with Elise. Early pressure, fast clears, good 1v1, pseudo-assassin, better late game scaling if you go PTA builds. You know she's gonna dive early, you can game plan and counter it simply by adjusting what you want to do in a game. However, if you are fluid with your mechanics, if you are fluid with your game condition knowledge, understanding when you need to win and how, she is indeed one of the best in the game to carry with, and that's why she's here even if the experience farm rinse meta is still kind of around. Now next up we have Udyr, and I might be underselling him, but I do think he's a little bit overrated currently. Hecarim should be your go-to ban. His win rate has dipped. The AD nerfs did affect him. You've got the R nerfs on the base damage as well. You have the Chemtank shifts. All of this is added up to a reduced effectiveness because he lost a lot of damage now overall. Yeah, he's still tanky and fast, but he doesn't have the damage to carry in solo queue. He's much better in high elo where a lot of these things can be circumnavigated due to actually having good laners. But for the rest of you, if you're looking to go speedy with damage, Hecarim's your choice, and there are better fighter styles that you can use, and Udyr is still extremely strong. I just don't think he's as overpowered as people are still thinking. Again, I might be a little bit wrong, but I do think the data is telling us this, and the fact that Hecarim remains atop the win rates and the ban rates really backs up that idea to a certain degree. On that note, we have Shaco up next, and his win rate is looking absolutely ridiculous. He was actually fine before, then they buffed him a little bit, so now he can clear chickens. And now he's quite strong. We have a lot of one tricks in EU West, Challenger Grandmaster, flexing around with this pick in a variety of build paths. His mythic choice is basically pick anything you like almost. AP, AD, fighter, you can really go what you want. The thing is, even though high elo people can mock Shaco and say he's a bad champion and he doesn't work, inverted commas of course, at the end of the day, statistics do not lie, and for the majority case player base, that means the 99.99% of you, this champion is absolutely exquisite for those not only looking to climb, but also to sell their soul. You can red side clear extremely quickly, you can gank bottom lane like that. You thrive from pressure, they don't know where you are, if they're not deep warding, if they're not tracking you, you will just show up somewhere on the map, you kill someone, it's too late for them to counter it because they didn't see you approaching thanks to your Q. And then you've got the boxes and your ult which fear people for 3,000 days in a row, and if they choose to fight in a chokehold, well, you're definitely laughing and it's not because of that creepy smile on your face. Next up, we have the Fiddlesticks, and most healers will not put him this high. I rate him very highly because he's extremely unique, he still rinse clears very fast, and if you have great adaptive pathing, we did an advanced jungle pathing video where I focused on a lot of things that Fiddlesticks can use, then not only are you avoiding bad matchups, you can use that to farm faster, counter jungle better, solo dragons at the right moment, wall hop and fear everyone into their early graves. And you have the benefit of being able to beat Kha'Zix, because clearly Kha'Zix cannot recognize the difference between fiddlesticks and effigies as sentient beings. And of course you get to sucky suck, and that's always fun. And next up we have Kha'Zix, and that's why I put fiddlesticks above Kha'Zix. While Kha'Zix isn't exactly performing, to a win rate perspective as well as he has done in the past, he's still the go-to AD assassin threat in the jungle. That's the end of the story. The versatility, the build paths, Q evolve, R evolve, you've got the W as well. And if you go Q evolve, W evolve with Dark Harvest, and then you have the Duskblade, it's kind of like having 3 evolves because it refreshes your unseen passive threat. Very snowbally, not exactly your rinse clear type thing. However, in the advanced jungle video, I did talk a little bit about a Kha'Zix example which was employed by Canyon, and you can see that with a little bit of adaptive pathing, leaving a camp here and there, you can gain tempo advantage, snowball advantage, and even if you're against something that farms very quickly, you can come out ahead. However, next up is Lady Rek'Sai. Fun to play, super snowbally, insane damage, really plays very well into the farming meta because while they're doing that, the impact you can have is free. No one's interfering with you, you control the pathing, you control the gateways, you control the rivers, and therefore you control the game state, provided of course that you can close. And the good news is, not only did I do a ganking tier list, I also did how to close games early and fast using strong early jungling, so Rek'Sai features in that video naturally, and you will see exactly why and how she is so strong for solo queue. And no, this isn't a drill, that is Morgana. Morgana jungle. The buffs helped her clear speed become absolutely unnaturally disgusting. Hecarim looks slow in comparison. Karthus dreams of having clear speeds this efficient. Now the play rate, this isn't too high, around the 4.5% metric. Because she is inherently more of a Fiddlesticks Karthus analog, yeah, she has more ganking power with her Q, except you can stop it with good positioning and awareness. However, the fact that she farms so quickly, and her damage output is so high, and when she does hit that Q, the Tormented Soul comes afterwards, she's got the Black Shield to avoid your CC, and then she shackles you up with her ultimate. You're looking at a really interesting and powerful jungling set. I'm actually doing full gameplay reviews of all these new junglers that were just buffed in the patch, so I will leave a link to that below so you can get the full breakdown of what I think about them. Next up, we are onto the A page, and you will see Nunu still sits at the top ahead of Rammus. Wait, sorry, I mean Rammus. Nunu is still the best tank jungler in the game. He still enjoys his phase rush gaming, he still can go aftershock if he needs to, and he simply patrols rivers and does everything he's always done and will always do. And if there are alternate timelines and we can figure out the English tenses to use, I'm sure he will have had control of the rivers in those as well. The problem is we have our new spiky Sonic Ball over here, who now does his best volley bear impression by leaping into the air and then slamming into the ground. It's definitely fun, it definitely has way more impact, but there were also other changes to his taunt duration, reducing it so he's less of a stun bot with this ultimate. He also has his basic attacks that extend his defensive curl ball, the W, up to 4 additional seconds. And then of course the damage on the power ball was nerfed at max rank slightly. This means you're looking at a more total modern package of Rammus. However, at the end of the day, he's still Rammus. The changes make him feel a bit more natural in the modern meta, and the ult does give him a certain accessibility into backlines and into teamfights, and I'm glad his pick rate is super high. The win rate is just sitting around 50%, so I think he's actually fine at the moment, not too strong, not too weak, but I'd like to hold off to see if there's any other changes coming forth in the next patch before we overreact in either direction. Next up, we have Evelynn, who continually sits here, yet I never see her. She's actually, you could really say she's not even an AT jungler, but I think she is for solo queue. The farming pressure she has, the question mark with her ultimate, and the fact that she can solo carry fights with the right target selection, with her pick potential, and with her damage. I don't think Evelynn mains are complaining because you can navigate the meta, provided you understand the matchups, and as long as your pathing and map control are good, you should have no issues still carrying games and at the very least getting to Diamond without issue. Provided of course that your jungling is good and ever improving. However, we've seen Nocturne in pro play now, we've seen Nocturne in high elo, he's gone from hidden OP to wait a second, this champion does stuff. And that ridiculous Stridebreaker item allows silly champions that can normally be kited to not be kited. That, and because he's inherently more tanky with the HP rather than those old assassin lethality builds, no more is he just a flying pigeon when he's behind. At the very least, he's a fat pigeon and he will still end up killing you because you just cannot kill him. But most likely, he's farming very well, getting 6 very early, and he is actually fed, so it's more like, a giant eagle swooping down to destroy you. Or a demonic pterodactyl. But either way, Nocturne, really good. Next up, we have Xinxiao, and I can never pronounce it properly, but I'm doing my best. Either way, we have versatility in both paths. We're seeing some Sunfire come out of Korea. I did a full gameplay breakdown on my other channel that did very well because people just couldn't believe the range on that W and the range on the E now. It allows obscene mobility and gap closing, while also opening up the possibility for top lane and solo lane. Overall, his fighting and ganking pressure are really strong. He can actually end up farming quite decently himself, and if you go tank builds, you just become unkillable while diving backlines. And that ultimate, really useful. And we have Lee Sin. Turns out a 2-second buff onto his E in terms of cooldown, 10 seconds to 8 seconds, really does the trick. So now he can clear more frequently. And remember, we're seeing a lot of this lately, right? I've kind of figured out, wait a second, if we just give cooldowns and bonus damage to monsters, they can clear faster, healthier, which means they can get onto the map, gank, and fight as they wanted. Which means Lee Sin can do that, which means his win rate is now popping off for a champion of his skill cap, which means Lee Sin is once again viable. Go forth, make your montages. Next up we have Valhir. Now I was going to put Viego, but his win rate is dipping slightly, and there is no doubt the Ionian boot nerf did affect the Volibear win rate just a little bit. I mean, you're still going to find 50 gold, you're a ganking jungler, you can full clear, you can get 2 crabs. It's really not hard to find 950 gold for Ionian, so it's not really that big of a deal. However, coupled with the chem tank nerf in the previous patch, coupled with a few other changes to the meta, like Morgana becoming, quite strong, Ivan enjoying a little bit of a win rate resurgence, Volibear can still get around the map, he can still farm, but he still suffers from inherent weaknesses in his kit. He still has to run at people, he still has to be tanky enough to sustain the damage. But overall, a solid jungler, still in a great spot, much better than he was before, so I'm still thankful for the buffs. We have a variety of playstyles that you can actually go to. Just keep an eye on it in terms of counter matchups rather than necessarily anything directly to him. And finally, we have Diana. Yes, one of the off-meta junglers that they decided to buff. Bonus damage to monsters, passive attack speed buff as well, which means when you use a spell, now we hit stuff faster. And I have already released a full gameplay looking at that style. 10% pick rate in Master Plus, 10%. Her win rate is lower than Morgana's, but the pick rate is significantly higher. Why? Because she provides a versatility of playstyle. You want to be an AP assassin? You can do it. You want to be more of a Conqueror Nash's Tooth abuser? You can do that also. You have playstyle choices, you farm really fast, you snowball heavily, you can one-shot people, you can sustain in team fights, you can have mechanical outplays, she's not that hard to pick up. Looks like a recipe for success. And yes, there are other picks that are doing quite well, things like Talia, Ivern, Viego. I'm going to give them all honorable mentions for the end of A tier page, just they're a bit more conditional to matchups rather than necessarily being blindly strong in the meta. Right, that does it for our core jungle experience. For the low MMR enthusiasts, you have similar picks available to you. The Rammus really coming in much stronger. Master Yeetus still exists with his Duskblade cheese. Diana and Morgana's win rates are both very good for low elo. I do think Diana's better for you guys to use because you need to fight a lot. You need to have disruptibility in team fights. You need a little bit of that self-peel, right? A little bit of that self-control where you don't need to rely on your teammates. Morgana might find herself in a situation when assassins are diving in on her, where she doesn't have Black Shield and Zhonya's. Yeah, life is kind of hard. You obviously see the Volibear and the Nocturne, that's expected, but what you might not expect is the Mundo. That's right, Plat Plus, nerfed really from the jungle, thrown back in the top lane, except for low elo. For some reason, the win rate in silver and below is absolutely, unchanged. It's exactly the same. Very strong. Farm away, kill everyone later on, become unkillable yourself. Bruv Keck, super easy. Now obviously for high elo things get a little bit messy purely because you have one-tricks that play Rengar and everyone hates Rengar on high elo so they ban it. You've got people preparing for pro play running around with Lilia and Karthus's even though the win rates just aren't that good at the moment. Do they still work? Yes. Do we still see great Kayn games? Yes. There's a whole bunch of champions you can actually use in this tier. So what I've done is organized it a little bit more by pick rate combined with the win rate. That means while Hecarim is still there, Udyr's win rate in High MMR is still significantly better than it is for the majority player base. Things like Nidalee, if you have hands and a Korean, basically guarantee you free wins if you path correctly. Canyon's video on my gameplay channel shows this. And of course, when you have Lee Sin buffs, now he has a 25% pick rate in high elo Korea. The champion can do things. Diana makes a showing 10% pick rate, as I said, looking very strong for this elo in particular, much better than Morgana. And then obviously you have things like Kha'Zix that work, Graves is still picked, Elise is executed very well with the right regions. But as I said, don't forget the farming, scaling junglers, the Fiddlestickses, the Karthus, Lilias, Morganas, they all have a place as well. But in terms of pick rate combined with win rate on a global scale, these are the champions that are performing the best. And there you have it, an actual shift in the meta in terms of S tier and A pages. Even if Hecarim maintains his supremacy atop all of the tier list, Riot please nerf it, I cannot handle it anymore. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you were able to enjoy and maybe learn something. Best of luck in your games, whether they're flex, clash, normals, whatever, getting better and using the strongest champions. Please do like, share, and comment if you do enjoy the content on both channels. Don't forget to subscribe if you do as well. Make sure your beards are S tier and not A tier, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.